I started work on the internet and internet studies in the 90s, back with massively multiplayer dungeons, MUDs, text-based worlds, and from there on started doing computer game research. And in the first book I wrote on a game called EverQuest, I studied a group of people that we often call power gamers, really hardcore instrumental MMOG players. And I think they got me thinking about what it meant to play in a very serious way. And it was a natural step then to start looking at eSports and professional players, because those are folks who are taking computer games, something that we often think of as just leisure and fun, and tackling them with real seriousness and intensity. I think when I first went to the first tournament I went to, I really went expecting mostly to just talk to players because they were on my mind as sort of the really interesting people on the scene. And I thought that they would probably be a little bit like the power gamers I had researched in the MMOG scene, but I didn't know much. I didn't have much expectation. But once I got to that first tournament, probably about halfway through that first day, I really started to notice all the other people on the scene making the tournament happen. So the players were interesting, but that was the first time I met somebody who owned a team and was signing people with contracts, and I met referees and admins. And so for me, that was really eye-opening, that the esports scene is made up of a lot of pro players, but also a lot of other people who are trying to keep that scene going and that, developing that professionalization. Well, I think when talking about cultural differences, it's such a huge topic. But for me, one of the most important differences between what we see in South Korea and what we have in Europe and North America is that in South Korea, there's a really different infrastructure and setup to support esports. So this goes all the way back to the government investing in technology and building internet infrastructure and really sort of putting computer games at the front of what they wanted to build in terms of technology development. And so I think those roots really structure how we have a certain kind of South Korean scene. I think the other thing too is, of course, you have a different system of where people are playing in a lot of game cafes, so that changes sort of social play. They're sort of out in public playing together. Those basic social infrastructure things make a big difference. I mean, we don't have that same kind of focus and development typically in North America and Europe, so the scene looks a little bit different. Well, I think sometimes when the comparison's made between traditional sports and esports, it's meant in a way that puts down computer gaming. But I actually think there's a lot of valuable comparisons between traditional sports and esports. So if we're talking about intense embodied play, skills, mastery, expertise, the amount of training and practice and focus esports athletes bring to the scene and bring to what they're doing. I think there's a lot of crossover there with traditional sports. So for me, using traditional sports sociology and thinking about esports in that way actually opens up a lot of ways to talk about um, what we might say the sort of better side of computer gaming, not this sort of negative impression of computer gaming, but really talking about how, it's not just anybody that can sit down and be a pro player. You have to put a lot of effort, a lot of practice, a lot of time and energy into it, and it's really concrete, embodied skill.